Be strong.
Alrighty, well, good morning and a very, very, very happy Tuesday here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. 2 hours can bring into your way, headed up until 11 o'clock on this fine, beautiful morning. Woke up, made myself a pot of coffee, had some toast and butter, took the girls to school, and feel good about myself because I actually woke up and I was feeling great. And I said, well, why can't we be great? Because the Padres are about to head into a divisional series with the Los Angeles Dodgers. They made it to the NLDS this year. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot of things going on. It's only a Tuesday. The end of NFL Week 5 is here. The Kansas City Chiefs made a comeback from they made a comeback after being down to Las Vegas. And for a moment, I think you almost had to be a little worried that the Kansas City Chiefs was going to lose last night. They were losing 20-10 in the middle of the third quarter. I tuned into it. I was actually watching a lot of Monday Night Raw last night. You know, got the ability to go home early because my back was acting up. I was having a lot of pain. So did a partial day, went home, got a chance to watch, there was two things on my agenda last night. It was Monday Night Raw celebrating its season premiere. You also had the 25th anniversary of D-Generation X, which I'll get to that here later in our program. And then we had the NFL Monday Night Football wrap up week number 5, Raiders, Chiefs. So last night the agenda was pretty heavily, right? And, it was the same thing as Sunday. You got Sunday Night Football with the Bengals and the Ravens and the Padres and the Mets for the wild card series. So there was plenty of stuff over the last 48 hours to say, all right, I got to sit down in front of the computer or in front of the television and watch some sports. And so last night I was determining which one I was going to watch. I was going to watch Raw. It's been a while. I had a great aftermath from Extreme Rules. I was very excited to see part of me was excited to see D-Generation X celebrating 25 years. It was a little different because obviously you didn't have Billy Gunn a part of the program, and sure they took some nice shots at Billy Gunn and AEW, but then you also got a chance. I think everyone tuned in mainly to see, okay, when is the next appearance Bray Wyatt's going to have? He made his return in a very fashionable statement. It's stuff that I think because you rarely see it now, the stuff that, the manipulative games or presence that a guy like Bray Wyatt brings reminds you of The Undertaker a lot, right? And Kane. It really, when it comes back, you just kind of soak it all in for a moment. You really, you miss it down deep inside, and when it actually happens, like it happened on Saturday, then you kind of take the moment, at least I do, to soak it all in and to enjoy each and every second of it. And so I think we're all sitting on the edge of our seats last night on Raw to figure out, all right, what is the next step? And I come to surprise that WWE went in a completely different direction. I was expecting maybe an appearance from Bray Wyatt. I was expecting to see what was next from Bray Wyatt. And I was honestly expecting a little bit of a down, like more of a softer show than what it was hitted. We had some returns. We'll get into that today in our program. We've had a couple of challenges making our way, and a title change changed hands last night. So we'll talk about that. But man, I'm getting excited for the National League and the American League divisional series that begins today. It's a best 3 out of 5 game, and especially hey, the Padres, not to be so much on a biased opinion, but we'll get into more details about this. But I'm excited for the San Diego Padres to be diving in and facing the Dodgers once again. Now there's a lot of, I think, mixed emotions that's going on. I think I'm starting to feel the tension a little bit more. I think being able to face the Dodgers in the divisional series, I spoke about this all month of September long, and I'll speak of this until the cows come home, that we have, we have the Dodgers are the team to beat in Major League Baseball, I think, overall right now, all right, especially in the National League. And so if you are any team that are going to go to the World Series, especially from the National League side of standpoint, you're going to have to go overcome the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Padres, man, I tell you, listen, you got two thoughts coming into this series. One, you're excited because the Padres have made it back to the divisional series. The last time they made it to the divisional series was in 2020, and they got shut out by the Dodgers. Okay, now we're hoping for a different outcome. There's a couple of different keys and elements and confidence that comes into this series that probably wasn't there back in 2020. And it's more of a enclosed series to the point where, all right, you can forget everything behind you, forget everything in front of you. You're not worried about the next series. You're not worried about what happened last series. You're worried about each and every game here. And, listen, and it's been 15 years since the Padres have been able to play a post-game, postseason game, playoff game, whatever you want to call it, at home in front of a crowd. It's going to be busy. It's going to be packed. It's going to be sold out. And, listen, if the Padres want to head up north, off the 405 freeway, all they got to do is purchase a Dodgers ticket. But this series is going to be a fun series. And, I think there's a lot of anxiety that's starting to build up already, especially if you're a Padres fan and that, you've seen them watch the Padres all season long. The anxiety level that's running through your veins right now. They're 6-13 over the Dodgers this season. They've just been annihilated from LA. I think one thing that's keeping me alive, that's keeping me hopeful, is the concept, or just the simple fact that, hey, it's the playoffs. And, maybe a series like the Mets where they took 2 out of 3 was a series that they needed to kind of push and elevate themselves. They're going to throw Mike Clevenger out there tonight. You didn't see him in the last series. They're going to go back to Yu Darvish, then Blake Snell, then you got Joe Musgrove. I don't know if you want to throw Sean Manaea out there in Game 5. I'm assuming not. But, I think, it's a series by series, and Bob Melvin is the perfect coach, manager, to give the team a chance at excelling and, obstructing a little bit more into the, this series with the Dodgers. It's going to be Bob Melvin versus Dave Roberts. And, I kind of like to think that maybe it's the road team in this series that has the upper advantage. Both Seattle, Cleveland, and the Phillies, they went on a 2-0 against their opponent in the wild card. Now, you know, who knows? Who knows how much time from last Wednesday night to Tuesday morning, right? That everyone practically 5 days that these four teams, the Dodgers, the Astros, the Braves, and the Yankees, have to they've sat on, and they've kind of been on the downhill. So we'll be looking into that. Whoa. There we go. Sorry, just adjusting my equipment here. Feels a little bit off on a Tuesday, but I haven't touched it in 24 hours. So, playoffs. Listen, ALDS, NLDS is here. Padres, Dodgers will get you down a bit closer into that a little bit later on. We'll get you a look at the divisional series, what's to come. Hey, week 5 of the NFL has come and gone thanks to a comeback from the Kansas City Chiefs last night. Like I said, they were down 20-10, and I flipped through it just to check it out. They were in the middle of the third quarter when they were down, and then as soon as Raw ended, I went back to Monday Night Football. I checked out the game. It was a minute left. Derek Carr, and the Raiders had the ball. They're down by 1 point, you guys, 1 point, and they give it up. Devontae Adams, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, just kind of stumble over each other in a cross path in the last play of the game. And that cost him the game. Adam was pissed off. Renfrow was frustrated. I think Carr was looking for a penalty at the end of the game. And, hey, listen, I was thinking, hey, the Red Chiefs, we're going to lose. I was about to come out here and say, wow, the Chiefs lost another game on the season to the Raiders this time. And, we're far from that. So we'll get a chance to dive into a little bit of week 5 Monday Night Football. I got 9 teams here that I think, it's time to hit the panic button. Okay. And I hate to say this, and I have a top 9. I got my top 9 teams right here. I got a little bit of everything for you. And you know what? I know fans are going to be upset about this, but I got the Bengals. I got the Bengals in the top 9. Maybe it's time to hit the panic button after a loss to the Ravens back on Sunday Night Football. So we'll talk into that. Get into a little bit of college football as Ohio State bumps up to number 2. Kentucky and Cincinnati right next to each other as well. We'll get you ready for NXT tonight. Braun Breaker sets to kick things off with to take on Javier Bernal in tonight's as we get ready and make our road to Halloween Havoc on October 22nd. That's going to be a takeover. I think that's a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Either Saturday or Wednesday. Let me double check. Is that Wednesday? No, that's a Saturday. Saturday, October 22nd. Yeah, that's right around the corner. A week from this Saturday. That Halloween takeover, and I'm looking forward to that pretty major event. But hey, what did you guys think of Monday Night Raw? I remember, I'm notorious down here. I got some notes taken. I was like, all right, so 1 second, I got all this. There we go. Out of the returns, out of the oppressions, that happened, the season premiere of Monday Night Raw last night, it almost felt the atmosphere in Brooklyn, all right, in New York. It felt like it was a night after WrestleMania. Matter of fact, I think last night, all right, the fallout of Raw from Extreme Rules, I felt like was a bit bigger and better energy than the night after WrestleMania, right? Usually that story is notorious to be a big one, but Listen, I mean, there was a big night. We'll get a chance to talk about it all. More lurking the Usos, right? More lurking the Usos here as, as Sami Zayn keeps on getting involved. He ends up putting his mouth, his foot in his mouth after having to compete against Matt Riddle. After having to compete against Matt Riddle, ends up losing the match. Usos had to stay behind, and I think this is going to be a consequence for is this maybe starting to be the downhill slide? I mean, Jey Uso starting controversy, starting some problems, starting to get aggravated with the family because of Sami Zayn's role, and and I think you and I know the position that the bloodline's at. Right? And I think Sami Zayn's involvement with the bloodline just brings a little bit of spice, right? It brings a little bit of, hey, maybe this is a guy that when this is all said and done, Sami Zayn is going to go out there and say, hey, this is, I was the one who kind of helped steered the breakup of the bloodline. I mean, who knows? So I'll, that's something just to kind of ponder over because it really spilt in again, and we'll take it to SmackDown and we'll see what's happened on SmackDown. I got a couple questions for you guys. All right, one of them, how excited were you with DX return celebrating 25 years? I know that they're older. I understand that they're one minus one. And then they paid tribute to China, which is always glad to see. But how were you entertained about? Did they fill in enough segments? Did we see enough of DX? Last night in the celebration. Also, listen, U.S. titles changed hand last night. We'll get more into detail on how that came about. But Seth Rollins is now your new United States champion. And I guess I gotta be honest with you. After losing to Matt Riddle in the fight pit, exactly, what really gave him the whatever fight, right? I mean, I know this is a rematch with Bobby Lashley, but really, what made him earn a title opportunity after losing in a fight pit match to Matt Riddle? Matter of fact, typing out to a fight pit match. I mean, they were quickly to change hands with Seth Rollins from losing and tapping out to becoming the new United States champion. Also, I do want to talk a little bit more today and this morning. One thing that WWE really does not value enough, and they don't appreciate it. I don't think it's not because they don't appreciate enough. It's because because they have some. They just don't. They undervalue them. They underappreciate them, and they've really made their way into the WWE because they haven't been acknowledged. And I want to talk about the one key category that the WWE does not pay close attention to. So, all right, we got a busy schedule here ready for you guys on a Tuesday morning. We're going to step away. When we come back, I want to get you right into playoff mode. AL, NLDS, 4 games coming up tonight. Tell you all about it here next on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $927 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. for podcasts, YouTube videos, virtual business meetings, and even for interviews purposes, StreamYard.com is the place to go. They got cool little features as adding, sharing screens, adding multiple, people on. You can put up banners, overlays, play your own videos, color change, do live feeds and interact with comments from people who are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, stream live on multiple accounts. StreamYard is the place to go. Check out the free version today at StreamYard.com. Alrighty. Hey, it's a Tuesday morning, and we're getting ready for the NLDS series that begins today. And a matter of fact, it actually begins in just a few hours because the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves are getting ready to take on each other. All right, it's going to be in the National League. It's simple. All right, it's the best from the East taking on the best from the West, as the Phillies and Braves and the Padres and Dodgers are going to do, square off to do battle in action. And the winner of those are going to advance to the NLCS and then so forth. And, I told you guys last week that it came down to, there were 6 teams in the East, there were 4 teams in the West, and there were 2 teams in the Central. Well, one out of the 2 teams in the Central survived. That's the Guardians. They're going over to New York today. All right. There are a total of 4 teams, right? 4 teams to begin the NL, to begin the playoffs in the West. And now there's still 4 teams coming at the end of this series. At the end of the week, there's only going to be 2 teams. And coming out of the East, there are now 3 teams. So right now, last week, the story was the East was leading, had that 60% chance of, going, or, that 50% chance of going to the World Series and winning it all. And now, from 6 down to 3, the West are leading it. And so when this is all said and done, coming to the next week, when we hit to the AL, NL, we know 1 East Coast team is going to go. We're hoping, I don't know if we're hoping, but 2 East Coast teams are going to go with the Yankees. They would have to beat the Guardians. So let's get right down into matchup, because we got 4 games and 4 series coming into tonight. All right. And coming up in the first game, I'm just going to go game by game here, and I kind of want to give you an analysis plus for the overall series. Plus, I want to give you their starting pitchers for today's game. All right. So the first step we're going into, the first thing we're taking a look at, are coming up here at 107, game 1 of the 5-game series between the Phillies and the Braves. And this is how it's going to go down, you guys. All right, we have all 4 teams, 2 teams from AL, 2 teams from NL begin today. Right? Tomorrow we have the 2 teams from the National League, or the 2 games from the National League. They're going to be playing tomorrow. And then the 2 teams from the 2 games from the American League will play Wednesday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday will wrap up the National League, NLDS. And then Saturday, Sunday, Monday will wrap up the ALDS. So trying to spread it out so there's a little bit of baseball for everybody. So if they go to, if either the Mariners or Astros or the Guardians and the Yankees will go into game 5, that will conclude on Monday of next week. And then on Tuesday, that's when the NLDS is set to begin. So we're just jumping right from the NLDS straight away into the ALDS. Okay. So what do we have going on here? Game 1, first game of the day, the Phillies, the Braves, 1:07 p.m. And I sure do miss sometimes these ball games in the early afternoons, like the Phillies and the Braves, because you get to listen to them. That's one thing I loved about baseball throughout the year, is that while you're at work and you work at a place that allows you to have headphones on, sometimes listening to a live game than listening to a podcast recording does much better, much better wonders. So I usually try to always listen to the top game that's really the most intriguing or the most entitled to. But game number one, Phillies and Braves coming into this series, and I want to give just a big shout out to Rob Thompson, who officially signed. He took place over Joe Girardi back in the middle of this season, after they went on, they weren't looking so good. They let go Joe Girardi, who then was replaced by the intern manager Rob Thompson. And then that's what led them to the playoff run. Well, I mean, it's simple. Rob Thompson, back on Monday, gets an offer that he couldn't turn down. He signs a 2-year deal with the club as a manager for the Phillies. So that's something to be excited now. Maybe Thompson could take a step back, breathe a little bit, and kind of just enjoy the moment as he leads the team to face the Braves. And for Atlanta, hey, let's look out for Spencer Stride. Had a good bullpen session over the weekend. Stride signed a 6-year, $75 million contract here. So it's going to be a great series between the Phillies and the Braves throughout the year. The Phillies were down on the Braves 8-11 in the series in the yearly conference meetings. Ranger Suarez, Ranger Suarez will get the nod for the mound for the Phillies. He's 10-7, 3.65 ERA with a 1.3 WHIP. He was 10 pitch back against Houston, where he went 3 back on the 4th of October. He went 3 innings, 7 hits, and 4 runs allowed. For the Braves, you got Max Fried. Remember, we saw Fried a couple weeks ago against the Braves series, or against the Mets series. He's 14-7, 2.48 ERA with a 1.01 WHIP. He last pitched on September 30th, which was Friday, against the Mets. He went 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run off of the series, off of the 3-game sweep that the Mets had with the Braves. Looking into this game, as we are fascinated, I got 4 key matchup points. Let's talk about rust versus rest. I mean, there's a difference between, being rested. I think this goes for all home teams. Right now in this series, is that you had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to relax. Now, the only good news is that, you get to relax your starters. You get to rest up your bullpen. And you get to also have the first glimpse of who you get to face. While the teams who played in the wild card series had to go on and face or compete, and how well are their bullpens rested? Were there any injuries that acquired? Did they put all their runs and energies into that series, and they're not going to carry it over? But when you look at this series, right, Phillies just took 2 games from St. Louis. They got Sunday, Monday to rest. They got 2 days to rest the bullpen. And when you look at all these teams that won the wild card series, there's always somewhat of an advantage saying, hey, a team that the Phillies were in that rut, right? They weren't getting the performance out of Bryce Harper. They weren't getting the performance out of Nick Castellanos or even JT Realmuto. Well, these guys, hey, they got a couple extra games to start building it up. And like 2 teams to really focus upon is that the Padres and the Phillies needed this past weekend to really get ready for their upcoming series. Second thing is the bullpen. I mentioned that, it's going to be a bullpen game. All right. And it's going to be who can go into the bullpen the earliest, right? Let the starters throw as many pitches, watch a lot of pitches. And it's going to go down to the bullpen. Who's going to work in the bullpen? I personally believe that the Braves have a better bullpen in this scenario. Coming at number 3 is Rich Bryce at the battery. Listen, and I think it's simple. Bryce didn't have a great performance against the Cardinals. And it's going to be, and if the Phillies are going to walk away with this one, it's going to be a key element of Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Nick Castellanos. Those three guys, like, along with Bohm and all those other players. But it's going to be those three key guys that are going to have to step up a little bit and earn their money, earn their contract, earn their bonuses, and so forth. And last but not least, listen, Spencer Stride signed that 6-year deal. Now he's locked in said Atlanta. I think he's going to go out there this series if he could, if he's solid, right? Do or die with this injury. But if he's solid, he's going to be able to. I think he's going to be able to come in and just dominate, and that's going to give Philly some trouble. So I personally believe that the Braves, they just have a better bullpen. I am more confident that the Braves are going to beat the Phillies in this series. But the Phillies surprised me as against St. Louis, to be honest. So we'll see about that. All right, coming in game number 2, the Seattle Mariners take on the Houston Astros at 3:37 p.m. First American League Divisional Series game. The Mariners went 7-12 against the Astros on the year. Mariners have Logan Gilbert on the mound for the for game number 1, 13-6, 3.20 ERA with the 1.18 WHIP. Last pitched on September 30th against Oakland. He went 8 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. For the Astros, they're going to throw the dangerous Justin Verlander out there. Listen, he's been dominated. Only lost 4, 18-4. 1.75 ERA, and he has only 0.83 WHIP. And coming out of that, he has the lowest WHIP on the against all pitchers today that are in the game or are scheduled to pitch, at least starting today. That's going to go right behind Julio Urias, which we'll get right into here in a moment. But I think this is a simple series. Astros are the team to beat in the AL, in the American League. The Mariners get to go after them, and Astros are really just carried away with the American League. And here's what we're going to be able to see. Right, we're gonna Mariners must conquer Minute Maid Park. I think that's the only way you're going to have it. I think they'll do great in Seattle. I think they'll have. They'll probably win both of those games in Seattle, but in order to take the series, they're going to have to conquer the Astros on the road at Minute Maid Park in Houston. And you know what? I think that they have a chance to do it. I don't know how the series is going to go down, but I'm picking the Mariners. I'm favoring the Mariners to win in this one. I like I'm a big fan of seeing just new teams in the playoffs. All right, game number 3 tonight, 7:37 p.m. The second game of the American League divisional series, the Yankees and the Guardians. The Yankees dominated the Guardians all year long. And hey, we'll take you back to, April 23rd, where the Guardians were over in New York, and this was to wrap up a series. And you had the outfield for the Guardians getting into it with the fans out there at Yankee Stadium. Started throwing stuff on the field. You had players started climbing up the wall into the stands, just yelling, screaming. And the Guardians cannot allow the Yankees fans to get into the head. It's going to be notorious. Obviously, listen, Yankees, the fan base in New York never forgets, and they're never going to let you forget. If you allow the fans in Yankee Stadium to get to you, all right, then you're going to have a rude awakening. Now, here's the bottom. Here's the trouble part. You got to play 3 games in New York if you're taking all to game 5. All right, and let's be honest. I mean, it's going to be the best versus the best here, but we don't. There's no room for errors, and you got to block out that noise. I think that's going to be a big issue for Cleveland, for the Guardians, is how well they're going to be able to block out the noise out there in New York. Especially, I know that they're going to come back in and they're going to give the Guardians a lot of trouble, especially in the outfield. Also, an interesting fact here: Francona versus Boone. It's a 3-generation, 8 decades later rivalry, dated back to June 15th, 1958, Boston traded Tito Francona and Bill Fisher to Detroit for Ray Boone and Bob Shaw. And I think another key question is for the Yankees is how they're going to pitch Judge. I think it's gonna. I think, and I don't want to sit there and say that Judge is the best player right now in baseball, and maybe he very well is the best player in baseball. But how are the Guardians going to pitch Judge? Are they going to walk him? Are they just going to let him get on base? And so I think it's going to be up to Boone to really put that lineup in favor. If they do pitch around Judge, they're going to have to pitch to someone before or after that is just as dangerous, just like a Juan Carlos Stanton, in that sense. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And also, that came around through my table earlier this morning was this actually was tweeted out by Bob Nightingale. Yankees pitcher Aroldis Chapman said he would attend their mandatory workout if he definitely was going to be on their postseason roster. The Yankees could not give him that assurance. Chapman stayed home in Miami. The Yankees told him to stay there. This is coming from Bob Nightingale. His Yankee career is over. And so, listen, I know Aroldis Chapman, I think that's going to be a big relief coming from for the Cleveland Guardians because, hey, listen, it's Aroldis Chapman is a very, very nasty pitcher to go up and face against. And, Yankees bullpen needs the help. Guardians throw out Cal Quantrill out there, 15-5, having a year to remember in Cleveland, probably best year of his career, as he'll be facing New York Yankees Garrett Cole in this series. So looking forward to that one. And last but not least, last game coming up here, the Padres and Dodgers kicking things off, 9:37, game one. And we had to cut to a break. And I'll tell you more about the series and my final thoughts for all four teams when we come back. You guys are listening to the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll take you up until 11. We'll step away. You guys are listening to The Throw-In. Alrighty, 9:49. Man, I tell you, this hour is flying by really fast. I had this entire show mapped out, laid out, left and right, a lot of information. It is just one of those things where you kind of sit here and you're kind of like, okay, do I have enough information for the show? Because some segments go by real quick, and it's like trying to stumble over words to say and to keep the time going, and then you get lost in time, and then sometimes you got so much to say, and you don't have enough time in the show to really give this, to really put in all your information, all your opinion. So we're going to continue trying our best. Hour number 2 to come. We got a lot of football and a lot of wrestling to talk about. The aftermath of Monday Night Raw. Really want to get into that. Getting you guys ready for NXT. NXT tonight. Did they drop the 2.0? Are they back to just regular NXT? I saw that last week. So more changes in the professional wrestling world. But hey, listen, the series that I think I have to be so nerve-wracking for is the San Diego Padres. I tell you, the Padres, I love the Padres. I want them to beat the Dodgers. I think the fact that you made it to the postseason, you beat the Mets, you're going to get a chance to go home and play in front of a home crowd, in front of the Dodgers. On top of that, I think that if the Padres walked away losing this series, that it is going to be okay. Okay, I mean, I think that it's going to be okay. And I think next year is the year that you would have to kind of put your ducks lined up in a row and officially figure out a way to beat the Dodgers. But hey, listen, maybe the Padres have the formula finally in place to beat the Dodgers. You look at this. You got a healthier and steadier pitching staff. You got to remember that you're cutting yourself down to 3 to 4 pitchers in the series compared to pitching an entire 5-man rotation, a week prior, and then also pitching another 5-man rotation after the fact. So, a healthier, steadier pitching staff. I do feel we saw them lights out. Josh Hader looks like Josh Hader. Joe Musgrove. Listen, you gotta love Joe Musgrove, homemade. A native from San Diego, gaining a chance to pitch for the Padres in the postseason. Padres need to come out swinging. Stop. I mean, if you let these pitchers, especially the starting rotation, Julio Urias getting the nod for the Dodgers tonight, 17-7 in the year, and 2.16 ERA with the 96 WHIP. That's pitched on October 4th against Colorado. Listen, you need to come out swinging. I tell you that whether that's against Urias, whether that's against Dustin May, whether that's against Clayton Kershaw, it don't matter. You got to come out swinging. You got to come out hitting, be aggressive. You got to also put the run support on the board early on to help your pitchers. I mean, I know how much if you could get 2 runs in the first 2 innings, how much would that help Mike Clevenger or Yu Darvish or Blake Snell or Joe Musgrove in the early on. Okay. This could possibly be, I'm also said this could also be probably the best baseball the Padres have played so far. I told you about it takes a wild card series. Listen, it's great to sit down, rest your starters, rest your players, but some of the players, Machado need to get at bats. He need to get the bat swinging. Juan Soto need to get the bat swinging. This series for the Mets may really done something for the Padres to spark an elevation for them coming into tonight to this series. You know what? Here's on top of this. One thing that I think the Padres are missing the most is the intensity for this rivalry. This is a Padres-Dodgers rivalry. They're just north and south of the 405, 805 freeway, the 405, whatever you want to call it. And listen, this is for the 5. And listen, this is as simple as, hey, let's go out there and let's win some baseball, right? Juan Soto coming from Washington, he's got a couple years to get into the New York Mets rivalry, to get into the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. Well, let's get into the Padres-Dodgers series. Let's feel the emotion. Let's feel the intensity behind this. Mike Clevenger will get the nod for the Padres tonight, Game 2. Like I said, anxiety is lurking heavily as a Padre fan because you got to face the ungodly, the disgusting. When I say disgusting, I mean that in a positive way. But those Los Angeles Dodgers. But hey, listen, the Mariners. Yeah, I'll put it this way: the 2 wildcard teams from the West, Mariners, Padres, they got to go on and face and beat the 2 best teams in baseball today, with the best records out of the National League and the American League, and the Astros and Dodgers. So, I mean, do these 2 teams have the work cut out for them? Most certainly. But I'll tell you this: if you could the Padres go into this series and beat the Dodgers, if the Mariners go in and beat the Astros, then moving forward, Phillies or Braves. I mean, I think the Padres will have struggle facing the Braves, but they could beat the Phillies. Yankees and Guardians. I know Mariners could beat the Guardians. Maybe, be a run for the money for the Yankees. So, for the Mariners and for the Padres, the winner of these 2, if they could somehow win these 2 series, they really have a good chance walking themselves in the door into the World Series. And I think that's what you want to watch, right? I mean, that's what I want to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Braves for this series, for the Phillies. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Braves are going to beat the Philadelphia Phillies in this series. I feel like starting pitcher is it's just much better. I feel like the offense is more explosive, and I'm just uncertain of how your key players as of Harper, Realmuto, they didn't show up last series, and I don't know if they're going to show up this series again. Right, they showed up at the very end. It was the bottom of the lineup that really did wonders for them. So I got Braves over the Phillies. I'm going to go out on a limb and choose Mariners over the Astros. Now, yeah, the Astros have Justin Verlander. They also have Framber Valdez. Starting pitching looks really good. I don't know. I feel that the Mariners are going to just like they battled all season. They're going to go out there and battle through. I'm going to choose the Yankees over the Guardians. I just don't think I think Cal Quantrill is going to have an explosive game. I just don't know how he's going to handle Juan Carlos Stanton, Judge, and all those people. And I don't know how the Yankee or the Guardians are going to handle Yankee Stadium. And then last but not least, I'm going to have to still choose my San Diego Padres. That's it. My Padres. So we'll see how this goes. We'll wrap up. We'll talk more about that. Keep you on the highlights, in the loop of everything. But hey, listen, end of our number one is here. Let's transition into a little bit of football. NCAA football top 10 is out. 3 of the 4 teams that we're talking about are in the top 25. We'll tell you all about that and some of the highlights for this past weekend. Plus, hey, NFL Week 5 is behind us. 9 teams that I have that maybe it's time to hit the panic button for. So we'll talk about that. Plus, the fallout of Monday Night Raw. Still much more to come. Hour number 2 begins here next, right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, hour number 2 here of the Throne with Justin. Weekdays 9 to 11. At least we try to be. Got a busy day. Try to be on a good positive note. Padres facing the Dodgers. AL-NL divisional series. Looking forward to today, starting off at 107 between the Phillies and the Braves. Before we talk any more sports, hey, listen, if you guys miss any episode, wanted to take us all with you on the road, in the car, at work, wherever you guys are at, be sure to download us, the Throw-In, available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, anywhere you get your podcast at, we are on there. The Throw-In, download today. And, listen, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to Spreaker, who's provided us our audio platform. If you're looking, there are applications out there that are free. All right, there are applications out there that are free if you want to put up your podcast and let everyone listen to. We used to do that all the time. Podcast.com was a really good one. But we changed over to Spreaker thanks to Steve Barber over there at Armchair Booking. And it feels more professional. You can upload different episodes, more than one podcast if you wanted to. You can check your statistics, who's all listening, how many downloads you're getting each and every day. Also get a chance to monetize your own show, earn some money here and there. So encourage you guys, if you guys are out there looking for your own podcast and everything, and you guys want to make some livable wages off of this. And I'm not saying that this is a get rich quick, but you can most certainly come up with something if you really wanted to. So check out Spreaker.com for more information. All right. Hey, listen, Bengals lose 19-17 back on Sunday, but we have to be happy in Cincinnati. And there's a lot of things to be happy about in Cincinnati, as we'll talk about some NFL here later on this hour. But the first thing I want to dive into is NCAA football. We're through 6 weeks of football, And now Ohio State's is going to come into a bye. I believe Kentucky's going to go into a bye week. And no. I'm sorry. Cincinnati's going into a bye week. And coming after 6 weeks of NCAA football, we got 3 top teams in our division and that we kind of follow. 3 of the 4 or 5 teams that we kind of follow in and out this season are in the top 25. Yeah, be excited for that. And especially if you want to dive closer to us, Kentucky, Cincinnati in our area. Cincinnati's ranked number 21. Kentucky's ranked number 22 in the year. Ohio State got moved up yesterday in the AP poll to rank number 2 over Alabama. And I thought that was, all right, what's going on now? And, Georgia's still at number 1. Clemson's at number 4. Michigan's in 5. Tennessee, USC's in 7. Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Penn State, and there's your top 10 there. So, I know we right now, I think the teams that we're really looking out for as we kind of make our final stretch, right, last month or two of college football is before we get into the playoffs, right, or the bowl games. Georgia is at number 1 and Alabama is at number 3. Ohio State's sitting at number 2. Does that remain the same throughout the remainder of the season? Ohio State went into Michigan. They were ranked number 3 last week. They went into Michigan State. They clobbered them 49-20. And maybe because Alabama only won by 9 points, right? Not that much. Maybe that's why Alabama is now 3rd in the AP poll, right? Ohio State moved to 6-0. They're first in the Big Ten. C.J. Stroud, 21 for 26 in Saturday's game. 361 yards with 6 throw for 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Trey Vayon Henderson, 19 carries, 118 yards with a touchdown. Rushing, Ohio State went to 238 yards as receiving, 377 for the victory. C.J. Stroud threw his 24th touchdown of the season. So far, 1,737 yards total completions. As Emeka Eggbrook, I apologize if I butchered that name. He's caught so far 6 touchdowns, adding 1 more yesterday, 655 yards total. They had the bye week. All right, let's take a look into Kentucky as they lost to Carolina. They were up. They dropped down 9 points. They're ranked number 22 now. Kaya Sharon went 15 for 27, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4-2, third in SEC. They'll be playing September 15th against number 16 Mississippi at 7:30 p.m. They got 3 games. Kentucky has 3 games remainder on the season facing against ranked opponents. I believe one of them is against Georgia, and I want to say this about Kentucky, but I want to say this about Cincinnati here, but also as they beat South Florida 28-24. They're 5-1, first in the AAC. Ben Bryant 15-21, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Charles McClelland, 21 carries, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Bearcats went to 221 yards rushing and 193 yards passing in their victory. It was a close victory. So as we sit today, Cincinnati's ranked 21. Kentucky is ranked 22. And I just mentioned that, Cincinnati, let's start off with Cincinnati. It looks as if the Bearcats are going to have, I wouldn't say an easy schedule for the remainder of the year. But they're going into a bye. They get a chance to rest a lot of their players. And there shouldn't be a reason why they couldn't win the rest of their season. There just shouldn't be a reason why the Bearcats can't win out. And if they do win out, I kind of will probably immediately say that the Bearcats have a better probable position to be maybe in the top 15 of the AP poll by the end of the year, which just betters them, right? This is a team who surprised a lot of people in the top 4, went to the CFP last year, and, kind of struggled to get back in the top 25 this year. Went down early on in the season, losing the first game, hasn't lost since, and they're still kind of climbing their way up slowly, right? One loss, especially if you're not Georgia, you're not Alabama, one loss is easily for you to go down, right? Kentucky, on the other hand, right? Let's take a look at the Wildcats. They have 3. I believe they face Tennessee next week, which they're number 6, and then they face Georgia. That's 3 out of the 6 games left on the season. They have 3 more games that are within rankings, and they're pretty high rankings. Now they lost to South Carolina last week. They fall short to Ole Miss the week prior to that, I believe. Don't have let me see that. I want to confirm or deny. Yeah, they lost against number 14. So they're slowly starting to fall short in the AP. 7 to 13, now to 22. And now you come down into maybe let's face reality. You can't afford to lose any more games. You're 4-2. You're 3rd in the SEC this year. You're going to go in and face number 16 Ole Miss this Saturday, nighttime game at home. And I'm not going to say that you're going to jump back up to number 17, 16, 15 if you pick up this victory, but the margin for error for Kentucky not being in the top 25, it's easy. We just mentioned this with Cincinnati. They lose one game early on. It's easy for them to fall off. They fell off of the top 25, and then they had to climb their way back into it. The same can be said for Kentucky. And I'm going to use all of this. And I know right now, you still have a few years left before the playoff expansion. But I want to use all of this. Bearcats are a good football team. The Wildcats are, a good football team. And they want to be considered in the top elite, right? They want to be put into with better games. They want to be put into a better conference. And by doing so, you have to win these crucial ball games. So this week, keep in mind for Kentucky, as they're the only team that we're looking into playing as they get ready to play Mississippi State, is that there's no room for error for the remainder of the season. They have to win. They have to win these big games. I mean, maybe you can lose to a Georgia at the end of the season, but you can't drop against number 6 Tennessee. You can't drop against number 16 Mississippi over the next 2 weeks if you want to remain inside the top 25. I mean, otherwise, I think I'm very confident of how the Wildcats will finish off the season pretty strong. All right. Enough said. Thursday night football. The Raiders almost beat the Chiefs last night. Chiefs came back 130-29. And I'm a little bit of I want to say disgusted, but this is I think those are just a typical error from the Ravens, from the Raiders. Just especially, I think there was a lot of panic. I think that they obviously they did not expect to be up by 10 and down by 1 within a minute left, and I think there was some poor play decisions that were made. Derek Carr. In a 2-minute conversion, he tried to stay calm, just get the players up the field, and it never went his way. And it could have been simply changed if Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow did not collide with each other in the last play. Derek Carr was looking for a flag, but if you're Las Vegas, if you're the Raiders you'd be pissed. You'd be irritated. And I surely know why. Um, they moved down to 1-4. Now maybe they're a team to hit the panic button, but obviously they're not the team to be in the top 10. So, all right. I coming up after a break, I got week 5's is it time to hit the panic button? And unfortunately, I got the Bengals on this list, and I'll explain more. You guys are listening to the throw-in on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, taking you guys up to 11. We'll be right back. $10.20 here. Hey, I want to give congratulations coming up here in Cincinnati for the first time, even though they're playing in New York. I want to give a big shout out to FC Cincinnati making it to the MLS playoffs for the first time since founding the organization. They will be taking on New York on October 15th, which is actually this Saturday at 12 p.m. If you guys are looking to start catching up in some of the, other sports going around Cincinnati. NHL begins play today. Tampa Bay Lightnings, Texas, and the New York Rangers will drop pucks at 7:30, and then later on tonight, Las Vegas Knights taking on the Los Angeles Kings at 10 p.m. Now that's going to be a little bit of a controversy of who's going to attend what heading into the playoffs compared to first home game of the season, which means, listen, we are getting ready for Columbus. The Blue Jackets kicks off their season tomorrow in Carolina to face the Hurricanes, 7 p.m. drop pucks. And that means, hey, a week from this weekend, October 22nd, all right, Cincinnati Cyclones are going to be over in Fort Wayne, all right, to face on the Comets in the first minor league hockey game of the season. So they're going to get ready for that season to begin. And that's the only reason why we're following the Cincinnati Columbus Blue Jackets, because they are the minor league, team for, because the Cincinnati Cyclones are the minor league team. Let me put it that way. Just 2 hours away up north and a little bit east. All right. Hey, NFL Week 5 is over with, and I'm going to tell you this. There are 10 teams on my radar that maybe it's time to hit the panic button. And coming in at number 10 was the Las Vegas Raiders losing last night to the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that they should have won, right? They were up by 10 points in the middle of the third quarter. They gave up 20 within a 20-minute time period. And, they found themselves having to play 2-minute football at the end of the game with a minute to go. I think that, with one timeout left, Derek Carr, I think, had a solid opportunity to kind of get his team across the field into field goal range, right? That's his only job was to get across the field into field goal range so that then, they could win by a couple of points. And, and you kind of saw with the minute to go, then, hey, let's get the ball upfield. Let's just keep on moving the chains. It's 3rd and 1. And, we didn't necessarily see any of that, right? I think we saw panic a little bit from the Raiders. And listen, being in 1 and losing to a rivalry team, especially to the Chiefs on a Monday night showdown, I think it draws some sense of urgency to want to do whatever you can to get your team in the best position. You would think with how Hunter Renfrow was playing, with how Davante Adams were playing last night, you thought that the Raiders had a really solid chance at winning last night's game against the Chiefs. And I think at the end, they slipped up and it was a trouble. So coming at number 10 is the Las Vegas Raiders. Is it time to hit the panic button? This is a division that's not going to wait around for anyone. We know the top two teams. It's the Chiefs and it's the Chargers, right? And if you're not with the pack, then you're easily going to be left behind. And now with the Raiders losing again, they're going to be definitely left behind. Coming in at number 9, and I know maybe Cincinnati fans are going to, shoot me down on this one, but it has to be the Bengals. All right, 2-3 on the season. Lost Sunday against the Ravens, 19-17. And I think the key element is that I know we had trouble. There's trouble with the offense that needs to get their work together. But the last 3 games that they lost, right? They lost all 3 games on the last play of the game. And I guess it comes down to, hey, the Bengals are not finishing football games. I mean, you think about the 2 field goal games that they lost to. All right, Cowboys was a field goal game. The 3 games that they lost to was down to the last play, was down to the field goal. And these games should not have come down to the field goal. It should be the other way around. Cincinnati Bengals come in at number 9. Should you hit the panic button? Coming in at number 8, Miami Dolphins. They lost to the Jets 20-17. They moved to 3-2 on the season. Falling apart with injuries. That's what I would say. Tua Tagovailoa, Teddy Bridgewater. You got the left tackle Terran Armstead and wide receiver Tyreek Hill all going down just in last week, all out of the game last week alone. So does so injuries. When you have it's one thing having Tua Tagovailoa out. I don't know what was happening with Teddy Bridgewater to be out, but injuries are starting to kill the Miami Dolphins. Coming at number 7, Seattle Seahawks. Now I know, listen, Geno Smith has been playing well in Seattle last couple of weeks. They come in 2-3, which I think is a lot better, a lot more expected than what we thought they were. They lost against the Saints 39-32. And, I think Seattle's flaw is Pete Carroll. The defense just gives up. Pete Carroll defense does what Pete Carroll's defense does the best. Gives up a bunch of points. The Seahawks defense allowed 34.5 points per game ever since week number 2 on this season. So, I think that's something that's going to be carrying with the Seahawks. And I just don't know, Teddy, if Geno Smith and at least the opponents that they're going to be facing down the remainder of the year he's going to be able to put up 40 plus points to overcome that. And so that's going to be, it's time to panic. Hey, listen, this is you can't be giving up the defense can't be giving up that many points, especially if you have a head coach as a defensive coach, right? Coming at number 6, Detroit Lions, 1-4 on the season. They picked up the first week win. Thought very impressive. They got shut out by the Patriots, 29-0 last week. Listen, Dan Campbell, I think he's hit rock bottom. I think Detroit Lions have hit rock bottom so far this season. Starting the season off 1-4, should have been 0-5, and it's a week after week disaster. It doesn't seem like anything can just get on the, not I want to say on the urge, but it just doesn't seem like anything can. No, the Lions can't grasp anything, can't get on any rhythm. Coming in at number 5, or coming at number 6, right? 9. All right, coming in at number 6, I had the top 11 because I threw the Raiders in there. Coming at number 6 now is the Green Bay Packers as they fell short to the Giants in London, 27-22. Aaron Rodgers clearly misses. I mean, come on. Green Bay, You miss Devontae Adams, don't you? The 1-2 punch combination. And now, listen, no matter how much you praise the wide receivers that you have now, you got to give Rodgers credit. He's trying to make do what just can't be done. And that's having a bunch of rookie receivers, and he has a bunch of rookie receivers that he's trying to develop into Devontae Adams, right, of the world. And it's not gonna, out of every receiver, maybe 2 will actually come of it, but you can't make that happen in year number 1 of this new process. So, Packers, ever since, I don't even know if they're the favorite team in the NFC, to be honest, without a key core receiver. Now, hey, OBJ is looking for a team to go to. Could he be going to play at Lambeau Field with Aaron Rodgers in January? I don't know if OBJ wants the cold. I mean, I know that the Packers are one of the teams. The Bills are another team that he's considering highly of going to play in the middle of the season. OBJ still has his connections in LA. He could go to Kansas City, but does he really want to play in the cold? I think that's going to be the key question, at least in his hometown. Could he go to the Raiders? And to be honest, will the Raiders even benefit? If they're not benefiting from a Devontae Adams, what makes you think they're going to benefit from an OBJ? Coming at number 5 is the Arizona Cardinals, who could have shut down and forced the Eagles to lose their first game of the season. Poor management skills by Murray, costing Arizona the game. Matt Amendola missing the 43-yard field goal. It's fundamental football, right? I mean, this is you finally go on and you finally pay this man, and this is what he has to offer to you. So, good luck with that. Coming in at number 4 is Washington Commanders. I don't think that's really too much to argue with. They lose against Tennessee 21-17. They're 1-4 on the season. Coming in at number 3 is the Los Angeles Rams, and I think this is really a time to hit the panic moment. The 2 Super Bowl teams last year are now in both 2-3. I think that there's a little bit more flexibility for the Bengals when it comes down to hitting the panic button. They don't need to. What they have to deal with is not the same thing that the Rams have to deal with. All right, Rams. I mean, they're 29th in points. They're 26 in total offense. They're 5th. Okay, the 5th fewest points by a reigning Super Bowl champ in the first 5 games of their title defense. All right, we're dating back to the 1981 Raiders, who started things off with 63 points, 69 points by the New York Giants in 87, 99 Broncos with 70 points, 75 points with the 91 Giants, and then the 2002 Rams with 80 points. Fewest points scored since their title defense in the first 5 games of the season. They have a lot of work, especially after letting Cooper Rush come into LA at home. I think it's one thing if you allow Cooper Rush to dominate if you're in Dallas. All right, and Dallas is going to have a fun game because they get to face the Eagles, and I really believe that this is going to be the first true test for Cooper Rush facing Jalen Hurts and the Eagles here coming up Thursday Night Football. But Rams have a lot to answer to real quickly. Coming at number 2, Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson undergoes surgery on his throwing shoulder. But, listen, it's not just about Russell Wilson. Obviously he's not the same player that we've seen the last, 10 years in Seattle. He isn't, and he's going to have to start accepting that. And if he's going to want to stay in the NFL, he's going to have to accept it. Not only he's going to have to accept it, he's going to have to be able to adjust to it. Okay. And let's be honest, Nathaniel Hackett. Okay. He's an offensive coach, and you have an offensive coach trying to coach an offensive player. You have 2 different people making decisions about what to do during a football game. What was so great about Pete Carroll, what was so great about Russell Wilson combination was that Pete Carroll knew that, hey, Wilson, you go out there, you just execute and you do your job. I'm going to put my defense out there, and they're going to do their job, and they're going to stop the plays. So I'm going to be able to counter whatever you put out on the field. And one of the problems in Denver with Nathaniel Hackett is that you have an offensive coach that thinks he can run his offense the way he wants it under Russell Wilson, who is also trying to have his foot in the door in a say or a vocal, opinion about what he wants done to the team and what plays he wants. And so now you have both of these people trying to give each other space while also cross mingling with each other. Wilson's getting banged up. Now he has to go under surgery. Who knows how long he's going to be out for maybe a week or two. Obviously not the same Wilson that we've seen. I don't think he's comfortable in Denver. They dropped down to 2-3 on the season with the loss against the Colts, 12-9 last Thursday night. And then that last but not least, coming in at number 1 here, Carolina Panthers. They lose to the 49ers 37-15 by more than 20 points. Carolina part ways with Matt Rule. Okay, Matt Rule was 11-27 with Carolina. Steve Wilkes will be the new interim manager. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it has to do with Matt Rule. Now, I go wish Matt Rule the best of luck. He goes on and does whatever he needs to do in endeavors. He'll go on to be maybe a college football coach, maybe be a defensive coordinator, whatever the case may be. But he's not going to be he's not a head coach, at least not with trying to develop a Baker Mayfield who has really shot the team. I think the problems is more internal. Are you going to put, is it time to put Sam Darnold over Baker Mayfield? Or here, better yet, who was it? I just saw it this morning. Josh Rosen, the former UCLA quarterback. He just got released from the practice squad. I don't know about what team, but maybe throw Josh Rosen out there. Pick him up, give him a shot at it. So that is my top 10, top 11. Is it time to hit the panic mode? I think it is for some of these players. And we have a rude awakening. All right. Hey, we are finally at the end of the show. We get to talk about some wrestling. A lot of talk about from Monday Night Raw. But, there was one category, in my opinion, that I took away that WWE does not give enough appreciation to, and I'll explain that here next, wrapping up a Tuesday here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $10:42 here on the throw-in with Justin. Want to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound, providing us the music that you listen to right here on the throw-in TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. Just a few weeks away from Halloween Havoc. Going to be an amazing night. I know that for a fact. Couple great matches already lined up as NXT gets ready to set off tonight. Couple of storylines coming out of NXT to pay attention to. As I was honestly mistaken that Halloween Havoc was actually tonight. So Braun Breaker kicks off a night taking on Javier Bernal. Alba Fury sets sights on JC Jane in Toxic Attraction's Path of Destruction. Nathan Frazier and Axiom determined best of three winner in the third and final showdown. Channing Starks Lorenzo looks for retribution against Wes Lee. So a big night in NXT again, just like it has been. And WWE is really putting out a product out there. Last night on Raw, we celebrated the 25 years of D-Generation X. And, I thought it was a little cute that D-Generation X, everyone but Billy Gunn, okay, came out. They talked, hey, listen, hey, HBA ended off the show saying, hey, if we're back here 25 years, please kill us. I mean, but I think one thing that I, didn't like out of it is that they didn't really make the show around DX. I mean, yeah, you had a couple segments at the beginning and middle, at the end with DX together, but overall, you didn't see a whole lot of DX memories, DX fondments, and it was very, very plain to come out there in Brooklyn, everyone say 2 or 3 words, and go home. That's it. Good night. So I was a little upset about how D-Generation X usage of the celebration of 25 years was given. I wanted a little bit more. I wanted to see something, whether it was Braun Strowman, maybe it was Bray Wyatt, maybe it was just somebody else to come in and get involved and maybe be a part of it. A few years back, we saw DX out there on SmackDown, and Baron Corbin got involved, and then something happened to him. How come we couldn't see the same thing? But last night, Monday Night Raw, which was actually the first Raw that I've actually sat and watched probably from the beginning to end, and I tell you what's very entertaining. It felt like it was a go home show. It was maybe it was the show right after WrestleMania. Normally the night after WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw has always been a big show for returns and excitement. And last night was the season premiere of Raw, and we thought there was going to be room for excitement and all that fun stuff. And we surely saw that. We kicked things off with Johnny Gargano with the mentor beating the Mr. Money in the Bank, which I think this was a great win over for Johnny Gargano, trying to kind of maybe get comfortable with Monday Night Raw. He's holding on too much of the past, and I think this victory helps him, move forward from where he is at. Ray refuses to attack his own son, as that controversy still continues, and we'll talk plenty about that. The bloodline, listen, Jey Uso stuck watching Sami Zayn while he took on Matt Riddle. And Sami Zayn is apparently not, is responsible for the Usos, responsible for Jey Uso, and trying to get him. And just the opening segment for Raw last night was just a little bit hysterical. And I say hysterical because you got to love what Sami Zayn does out there. And I know a lot of people don't like Sami Zayn being part of the bloodline, but I feel like there's nothing left for the bloodline to really establish other than dominance. And you kind of have to have it all. You have to have it all. You have to have the comedy. You have to have the presentation. I mean, you have to be able to go out there and give the fans a little bit of entertainment. And right now, besides, all Roman Reigns is going out there and saying, hey, acknowledge me. And that's it. And sometimes that doesn't just work. But what you are seeing is that you're seeing part of the bloodline questioning the authority of Roman Reigns. So I guess you wonder, how long will that last? How long will and if you let it last long enough, could it affect the bloodline down the road? I mean, we're talking about, hey, the road to WrestleMania. This has been a story that's been told since last year. It's been one of the best stories in WWE over the last decade. And you're starting to maybe start seeing the fall of the bloodline, because I think that's where it's leading to eventually. Judgment Day, talking about the Judgment Day. I love how they've, occupied a good segment. They got involved into Rey Mysterio's match last night, and it's all game personal, and we'll talk plenty about that. You have to appreciate the return of the originals, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows. It's been nearly 2 years since they last been in the WWE. They're back. And they're back to answer the Judgment Day. I'll put it that way. And we're excited. I don't think what excited me the most was not the fact that Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows returned, but it was the fact that, I think for me, was the fact that there was new people stepping up to face the Judgment Day, because for the past, I want to say 2.5 months, it's been around Edge, Rey Mysterio, AJ Styles recently got into it, and to bring in some fresh people, that could really level and really push Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and even Dominic Mysterio to that next level. I think that's what it is expected to see. I will, like I said, War Games is coming up right around the corner. I will love to see Judgment Day and, the Bullet Club, right? Or, Carl Anderson, the originals with AJ Styles, to be in that cage. Those are a few people. And over the last 3 months, Triple H has been giving everyone what they want. Brock Lesnar comes out, costing, hits a couple F5s on Bobby Lashley, costing him the United States Championship. And I think, it's not, listen, okay, so Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, maybe at Crown Jewel, that's what we're looking for. Okay, I can settle for that. I'll be happy with that. But is that what we're really, I think the bigger story is WWE's kind of gone back, maybe took a step or two back. Because after Seth Rollins loses at Extreme Rules against Matt Riddle, not only he doesn't only lose, he taps out. He has to go. He gets a title opportunity. He gets a title rematch that he never won. And so, how come Matt Riddle is not part of that? How come Matt Riddle is not a champion or not getting that title opportunity? He won the match. Those are questions to ask of Raw here. So we'll kind of break a little bit more into that coming up later on this week. AEW is getting ready to, first of all, ever get into Canada. There's a couple matches that I'm starting to learn about, so we'll be talking plenty about that tomorrow, because going international is a big deal for wrestling companies and wrestling, fractions. One category, though, I do want to finish off with this one category that the WWE doesn't really ever appreciate or show much attention to. That really, for me, over the last couple of years, it's probably been overlooked. But the notion of factions in WWE, and I've heard about Kevin, the new announced person on Raw last night. He acclaimed, that the DX, is a big faction. Well, the WWE doesn't necessarily acknowledge or really highlight fractions, at least when you compare it to a company like AEW, who even has a faction, trio championship. But fractions have really made the WWE over the last couple of years. I was thinking about this yesterday, and this is why I really wanted to talk about this. Is when we take a look at fractions, successful fractions, the Bloodline, Judgment Day, Undisputed Era. I don't know how much credit WWE could take because of that, but you also got the New Day. You got Imperium, the Brawling Brutes, the originals with AJ Styles. I mean, there's so many factions that's been developed. Toxic Attraction, Damage Control with Bailey, that it doesn't get recognized enough in WWE. And a prime example was this past Saturday where Imperium and in the Brawling Brutes really, really went at it. And, it took me a while to get used to, or not get used to, but to get settled in with the Brawling Brutes because, you know, I felt like, just like every team, it takes a while for one to get used to or to get acclimated with each other. And that's what I felt happened, right? It took me a while. Plus, they were facing the New Day over and over and over again. And my issue with facing the same group of men for 3-4 months straight without any mix up. And I get it. They didn't have a roster at the time to really step it up. But when Imperium stepped in, listen, these are two completely different teams. All right. The Brawling Brutes is a team that, kind of got put together by hand over an 8-month span and had to really just go their way and face whoever. While Imperium, they came up, they dominated from NXT UK to NXT. They brought that over to SmackDown. Gunther won the Intercontinental Championship. And now, but the one thing that both of these teams have in common is the fact that they both love to physically fight, and they both love a good brawl. And we saw a really good brawl back at Extreme Rules between these two men. And, I really thought that, hey, Imperium was going to come in. Imperium was going to dominate, right? Just like, like they've been doing the last several weeks, ever since they got brought up. And we actually saw a table twist, right? We saw, the tables turn. They twisted. They ended up, and the Brawling Brutes walked away with the victory in this 6-man Donnybrook match. And I can't tell you how much that this elevates the Brawling Brutes to that next level because, Gunther and Imperium was already at that next level, right? And even if you didn't watch and you're living underneath the rock, you didn't watch NXT or NXT UK, you've always heard about Imperium, just how dominant they were. Well, I wouldn't say in the last couple of weeks we've been having be forced to take the Brawling Brutes a little bit more seriously. And I think what elevates the most with this is that, hey, let's not ignore how much of a run this is doing for Sheamus. Now, yeah, I think at the end of the day, I would like, whether he's a heel, whether he's a face, Sheamus to win that IT title, become a Grand Slam champion. I think that he's the next person that deserves it. But, I don't know if Triple H is going to eventually bring in a trio championship. I don't know if that's necessary, but the WWE doesn't necessarily highlight these factions anymore. And one thing that has changed over the years, thanks to the Bloodline, the Judgment Day, the New Day, the Brawling Brutes, Imperium now, Phantasma, who just came up. I mean, we're starting to have some teams, which is nice because when the Bloodline is separated, because eventually that's where we're headed to, when the Bloodline is separated, when the Bloodline is moving on in their storyline and they start to separate from each other and go back to where it is, where they were, or whatever's next for their career, we need some people to take their spots. And is that going to be the Judgment Day? Is that going to be Imperium? Is that going to be the Brawling Brutes? But next time you watch Raw or SmackDown, pay attention to the fractions. I mean, because AEW sits there and they acknowledge the fractions all the time, right? Every show has to do with the Blackpool Combat Club or the House of Dark or the Jericho Appreciation Society, but we never see much with WWE. And sometimes when it comes down to WWE, they kind of bypasses us, and it just goes straight through us because last night on Raw, I heard plenty of it, but that's because I was actually paying attention to it. Great episode of Raw last night. Looking for a follow-up on NXT tonight. NFL Week 5 is officially behind us. We can look forward to Week 6. The NLAL Divisional Series begins tonight, so there's a lot to look forward to. We want to thank you for everyone who has tuned in to us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Appreciate you guys listening to us. Be sure to download us and listen to us on any audio streaming platforms. And we will be back again tomorrow morning. My name is Justin. You guys are listening to The Throw-In. Thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Until tomorrow, you guys have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.